Okay, PunchorBurn version 462, head lifting. I've revisited this issue and I've made some changes that you're going to have to attend to before you can start using this version. The first thing is I've added a maximum value for the head lift, and that's the Z value, and I think 3.75 is a good number. One of the reasons why you may have been getting more tip ups than you should, or getting tip ups, is because the amount that the head used to lift was limited to 2 inches, and so now you can get the full lift, and I'll explain that in a second. The first head lifting parameter that we have is the lift height over the clamp. Now, if you put a value in here that exceeds this value, the 5 is greater than the 3.75, on the model laser, that's going to generate an M104 code without a Z, so it's going to be whatever the retract is going to be specified by the condition table for that particular material. So anytime where we're specifying a lift height and we exceed this number, you're going to get a full an M104. All right. Going into the laser options, I've changed these around a little bit. The first 2 values are etching, and the next is the holes, and the next is the lines. I did that because this is the order that PunchorBurn cuts out a blank. If you don't have finish one part at a time, PunchorBurn will do all the etching first, then it will cut all the holes and do all the slug destructs, and then it will cut out the parts. If you have this checked, finish one part at a time, PunchorBurn etches the whole blank first. It doesn't etch one part and then cut that part out. It does all the etching. Then it does all the holes and slug destructs for a particular part, and then it cuts that part out, and it goes back and forth between cutting holes and cutting parts out until it's done. You'll notice that there is now 2 values for a head lift height, okay? And then there's a distance. If the move is going to exceed this 6 inches, it's going to lift this much. If it's under 6 inches, it's going to lift this much. So you've got twice as many parameters. You've got twice the control now that you had. These are some of the numbers that I think would be a good place to start. If the head is going to move further than 6 inches, then raise the head up a half an inch, which is going to get you over waves, so that you're not scraping the material on the head, on the material. Under 6 inches, I think you ought to have a head height lift of 0 as you're going from letter to letter, as you're etching characters. You don't want any head lift in there. You want that thing to go like crazy and be as smooth as possible. When you get to the holes, I'd say the cutoff point between the minimum and the maximum lift, about 10 inches. And at 10 inches, if it's under 10 inches, lift it a half an inch high. And if it's over 10 inches, lift it all the way. The minimum move for a line head lift, I recommend at 1/4 of an inch. a line, and if it's going to move less than 1/4 of an inch, it's probably going to be a tab, and then there's no reason to lift the head for a tab. Just shift the head over and pierce and go. And then anything over 1/4 of an inch, if it's moving to the next piece, give a full lift. When this is checked, PunchorBurn examines all the existing cutting that's done, and if it predicts that the head is going to move over and something that's existing cut out, it's gonna give the maximum head lift height for a line. All right, that value is if PunchorBurn sees that it's going to pass over an existing feature. PunchorBurn always lifts a full height whenever it passes over an existing part. If you're finished one part at a time mode, if PunchorBurn's going to pass over a part that's previously been cut, you'll get a full head lift. All right. A couple other things. Adrian thought it would be a good idea to not omit the duplicate dimensions, so there's a checkbox in here now. Just make sure that all the X's and Y's are in the G-code file, so that if there's a restart, that everything is completely dimensioned and you won't be missing an X or a Y dimension and go to the wrong place. I modified this a little bit. If you want to go to a different condition, you just go down here and select it. If you create a new condition, you can save it. The delete has got to do if you have multiple lasers, but you only have one laser, so you don't have to worry about that right now. It's a method of swapping information between the two. All right. The last thing is back to the edit machine in the G code. Include G00, G40 after M104 or after a M104Z. Adrian thought it would be a good idea to do that. Because PunchorBurn does not use the beam offset, it does not, which is a G41 and a G42. The G40 is beam offset cancel, but PunchorBurn never generates a G41 or a G42. So the G00, G040 really has to do with suitable for programs that do use the beam offset code again. Because PunchorBurn is a common line, focuses on common line cutting. I calculate all the offsets internally. They're in the G code. All the calculations are done. So I don't see the purpose for it. You can do whatever you want. That's it.